All right. Good morning, all. We're just getting going here. Bear with us just a moment.
All right, we up and running?
We're up and running. Q&A thing's going here. But yeah, we should be up and everything. All right. We're good.
Okay.
Hang tight, guys. Getting some
All right.
scheduling conflicts
stuff. The team really followed the calendar closely.
They really do. Yeah.
One question.
One little calendar flub and
jeez,
shuts down the system.
Yeah. Must be nice. All right. We got some questions coming in.
Yeah, I'm pulling them right now.
All right. Sorry about that. Welcome everyone to the 034 Motorsport live chat, 0BS live chat. I'm Javad Shadzi, and this is Nate Stewart. I've recently chopped off all my hair.
Yes.
In preparation for summer. So getting in and out of the pool with long hair sucks. So I'm pool ready for the summer. Anyways, we're here to answer all your questions about all things 034 Motorsport. Any automotive questions, any Volkswagen, Audi, BMW questions you have, we'd be happy to answer. We prioritize topical questions that we can respond to substantively. Any kind of update questions about when something's going to be ready, we'll log those, but we will save those for the end if we have time. We don't always have good answers for when things are going to be done or ready, but we'll do our best. But if we're not answering it, it's because we're trying to prioritize other questions. Please don't get upset. Also, we are taking questions from 3 different platforms, so we're not purposefully ignoring your question if it's not being answered right away. There are questions coming in from YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. All right. So let's get going. Yeah, put your question into the comment field of your current browser, social media interface, and we'll go from there. I promise I'm not on Snapchat. The questions
not
come
only on
to the phone. Also on Snapchat, but not only on.
Right.
Hey guys, B8 SQ5 Stage 2 Plus Tune ECU and TCU with all the extras, including the internals. No, this is from last week question.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, we need some new questions here. Using the SPI mobile app, do you need to be connected to Wi-Fi when doing initial stage 1 ECU TCU flash, or can you flash using the cellular network?
As long as you flash with a reliable network.
Yeah.
You can have a Wi-Fi that's spotty as hell and a home-based internet that's slower than the cellular signal from your phone. So as long as it's a solid internet connection,
like 7-Eleven mobile,
right?
Probably not the best choice.
The terrible free gas station Wi-Fi. As long as you've got a solid internet connection, all of the data is basically the flashing process won't start until all of the data is collected and ready to go on your flashing device or your phone, your cable, all that. So the overall speed of the internet connection doesn't really matter as long as it's somewhat reasonable. A couple megabits will do it. And then most all the process is offline at that point to do all of the high risk work where it's flashing the ECU. So
yeah, a couple of megabits is not much.
No,
very slow.
No, you can get by. It'll obviously be slow, and you may get in some extreme situations. You'll get warning messages in the app saying it's struggling on the download. Do you want to wait longer, kind of thing, if it's a really slow connection. But generally, you can get away with damn near anything as long as it's a working internet connection.
Good question. What has been the biggest challenge in the engineering process throughout the years? The biggest change in the engineering process throughout the years. How have your processes developed? It's changed a lot. Our engineering processes have completely changed over the last 5 years, certainly over the last 10 years.
Last 20.
pretty much going back to 10 years ago and older. All the company's engineering was done by Nate and I. We sat in the same office, and we would just do engineering in between all the other work that we were doing all day long, like dealing with customers. And at one point, I was scheduling all of our service department myself. I was answering all of our contact emails, which was like a couple hundred emails a day, and we were doing engineering
and purchasing, and
and we developed a lot of great products. In fact, a lot of those products we still sell.
Yep.
Many of those products we still sell. However, our engineering effort lacked a lot of structure, and so it was kind of like Nate and I knew about stuff, and if something happened with a product a couple years down the line, there was no documentation, there was nothing to go back and look at. We had no really quality control checks other than what we could do ourselves. And starting about 10 years ago, we finally brought in a hardware engineer, someone whose whole job all day long was just to engineer and develop new products, kind of to assist Nate and I, is how it started. And I would say within a few years of that, Nate and I kind of pulled out of completely the day-to-day engineering process efforts, more on like a management and oversight of the team doing it. We added a second engineer a year or two later. Now we have a whole team of hardware and software engineers that Nate manages the software team, and I kind of oversee the hardware engineering team under the management of a department manager and another engineering lead in that department. So I still keep my fingers very close to the pulse of our software and hardware engineering, but we have great people that can actually do engineering better than I can, especially when it comes to like CAD design and engineering and things like that. But I have the deep understanding and knowledge of what our engineering effort should be and what our product should be like. But how it's really changed, in addition to having other people do the engineering who are qualified and in most cases degreed engineers, is we've added a lot of structure, process, documentation. So we have a project management system that all of our engineering on the hardware and software side is done in this system. Every step of the development process is documented. And so it's kind of like a set of dominoes, where once a product concept is created, it initiates the process, which takes the whole team and the department through all the necessary steps that we've documented and designed over the years to ensure that a product goes from concept to production to delivery, and that none of the important steps along the way are lost. In addition, every product we engineer eventually has to be put on the website, sold through our website. It has to be inventoried in our warehouse. It has to be sourced and manufactured. It has to be quality control checked. And we even go so far to create selling points and documentation for our dealers who resell these products. So there's just a myriad of tasks that come with creating, developing, producing, and selling a new product. There's literally many thousands of steps that we have a documented process that we go through. And we're constantly adding to this process. Pretty much every week we do have a meeting here in this room every week, where everyone, the key players from engineering, from marketing, from the website, from operations, we all meet to push these new products through the development process into the final like sale and merchandising of these products. And every week we're adding something to our processes to account for a little mistake or an issue that arises. So definitely the biggest change is the formulation of this very rigid and thorough engineering process and product development process and operations process that takes, again, the products from concept to your front door, or your eager little fingers, and your cars that seek these parts out. So yeah, it's been an amazing learning process for us, and I think we've innovated a lot of engineering processes and procedures over the years that are, I would say, not common practice in this industry in particular, and drawn from other industries. We're in Silicon Valley, so we have access to some world-class companies who have very good engineering and product development processes. On the software side, the software development is also very regimented and documented, and has to follow a very specific process.
Yep.
So, anyways, yeah,
and I mean, I'll touch on a little more like the under the hood stuff, the process and whatnot. The processes and the procedures certainly were pretty much a paradigm change in how the department ran. But at like an engineering level and just the doing the dirty work, just the evolution in tool sets over the last 20 years, both on the CAD side, we went from calipers to touch probe measurements for CMM coordinate measurement stuff to now we full color scanning of stuff. It's pretty insane the amount of reverse engineering on the hardware side that you can quickly get through now. And it's a common thing. There's consumer level things that we couldn't have dreamed of, when we started.
Didn't exist.
It didn't exist. The technology didn't exist. Anything that was available was just, stratus. Yeah, it was unobtainable. And it's on the software side too. The amount of tools and resources and just evolution that's gone on from code development to reverse engineering. All of it is, it would have killed for it 20 years ago to have any kind of this access to power and and tools that we have now. So.
Yeah. And you didn't mention 3D printing.
And then rapid prototyping stuff. Yep. Those didn't exist when we started. And then we were on pretty early back in the day with a Stratasys system. You're buying a $30,000 refrigerator that lives in your office.
I think it was like 55.
Whatever it was. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you get your support removal tooling and all that. But
that's worse than a 3D.
And now you can buy a $100 3D printer that'll just run circles around at speed and quality. It won't do ABS as well as that thing did. That thing cranked out ABS, but still, it's just Again, this unobtainable becomes a consumer commodity item. So
Great question. Whoever asked, thank you. Can I unplug my exhaust valves on B9 3.0T or will I lose power?
You should not. You will get typically like a soft code noting that they are unplugged, but you should not see any change in power or running or anything like that. So,
after initial tune, how long to wait before sending in logs for a general review? Are hard pulls necessary for logs?
Contact our support crew if there's something specific you're trying to get a hold of. We generally would rather have a conversation with you first if you have any issues. If it's just a health check or something, that's cool too. But getting us a usable log is 1,000 times better than just sending us a random log that you took. And we talk about it a bit. I think we have some documentation on this, but generally it'll be something like a third gear, start from like 2,000 RPM and just a straight pull all the way to red line will get us a really good picture of how most of the systems are working. And then if you've got any kind of like questions or, the things you want us to look at in particular, try and capture that in a somewhat repeatable, isolated manner. But no, there's no real waiting period after the tune other than just maybe you're giving yourself some time to kind of suss out what the new tune feels like.
Chassis brace or strut brace first on a B8 S4? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think they both have a similar impact. Our strut brace is substantial. It ties the strut towers rigidly together with a big, thick billet strut. But I'd say I think the feedback over the years on the chassis brace or the X brace has been very, very good, and we've sold so many of those. So I would say start with that it's also an easier install. It basically just is a direct swap out for the factory one. Recommendations on wheels for the 8Y RS3. Do you guys have? I don't know off the fly.
Yeah, I don't know what the
8Y.
Yeah, maybe we can do a little quick little research.
RS spacer for the 9.3s.
Yeah, our ZTF 9.3, the 19s will fit. They just need an additional spacer,
like 5 mil or something.
It's like a 10.
We would have to get back to you. Feel free to contact the sales guy. The new specifics like that are tough to kind of off the cuff it, and if it's not on the website or something.
We're getting an official response here now from Nick.
Oh boy, here it comes.
It sounds like you need a 15 mil spacer.
Okay. Oh, so they really pushed that hub in.
Yeah, the body is much wider on the 8Y, so 15 mil up front, and then with our studs, that would work. And then no spacer in the back, apparently. Someone's saying they recommend we spend less time on each question. I understand. We've been getting through virtually all the questions the last as long as I can remember. There was a couple like last year where we didn't, but this is really an opportunity for us to put out good information, not necessarily even about us or the company, although we'd certainly like doing that. Like the little spiel we just did on our engineering process is a great question, and it's something I really want you guys to know about. And so we spent a little extra time on that, and then we're going to clip that out so that for the foreseeable future, people can hear what we had to say about that topic. A lot of the questions are repeat questions that we've answered before, so yeah, we're just going to make judgment calls on how long to spend on each question, and we are getting through almost virtually all the questions, so I think we're good. One of your workshop partners, New German Performance, said transmission diff service for 21 S4 needs to be done at 60,000 miles. But in your last video, you said 40,000. I'm confused. Why different answers? Well, it's because there's no right answer.
There's not like a scientifically deduced answer.
I believe we've said 40, 50, 60.
Yeah, it's in that range. Not lifetime and not 100, whatever that the factory documentation says.
How often should you get a haircut? Every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4. It's going to be fine. Your hair is going to, might look a little shaggy if you wait 4 weeks. 2 weeks is a little quick, not necessary, but you could certainly get it done. You could get a haircut every 5 days if you really wanted to, trim up. So there's no right answer. It's not like the diff fluid goes bad at a certain mileage. If you want to be really extra careful and go above reproach on making sure you have the best functioning fluids, then change it at 40. Hell, change it at 30 if you're really that obsessed about it.
And it's still going to depend on environmental conditions, how you're running the thing. If
it's racing,
if you're on track all the time at 100+ degree temps and things are really getting toasty, then you're going to have a way shorter interval you want to try and maintain.
I would say every couple races,
like track day stuff. It's not necessarily a mileage; it's a use.
But if you're just cruising around and commuting on the street and just punching it every once in a while when you see a Corvette, sure, 60,000 is fine. So again, there's no need for confusion. Do it as soon as or as late as you'd like. We just don't recommend 100,000 miles like the factory recommends. It's too late. When is 034 going back to the track? We will be back at the track likely this summer.
Oh, for sure.
Certainly by the fall. We're kind of between some product developments that we want to finish up so we can test it at the track.
Yep.
So once we have a good confidence that the product and vehicle will be ready for testing, we will book a track in short order. And it's very nice to know that you guys notice and care about us going to the track, so we will definitely keep doing that. I don't know what we want to do about number one.
That's fine.
Yeah. Would you say that your tuning process similarly follows that of OEMs, or more similar to tuning shops purely running numbers off of dyno pins? Let me just take a quick whack at this, and then Nate can. So definitely not like number two. Our tuning and calibration and engineering process is not just based on dyno numbers, and I think what you said is accurate. I think a lot of small tuning shops are going on the dyno and doing wide open throttle pull after pull, trying to build the most power they can. A lot less time is spent to re-engineering safety systems, addressing drivability, shifting, throttle response, things like that. I do believe that our tuning process is more similar to OEMs, substantially more similar than to like a tuning dyno shop. And I think we have received some valuable insight over the years from Audi themselves. And so Nate and I, about 6 years ago, we actually met with a team from Audi who had this project that they reached out to us. You know how I'm going to freaking talk about this because it's been so long, and they kind of ended up ghosting us. But
they ghosted everyone. They did. Yeah.
You know how BMW is like, not through the BMW app. If you want heated seats, you have to go to the interface and pay for it. And everyone lost their minds. What was it? Like, it was something like heated seats.
Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, and people freaked out. Well, about 6 years ago, Audi was, and I think all the manufacturers were like, hey, we can make money off selling people features and stuff about their cars while they're in their car driving. You want your butt cheeks massaged? Well, what better time to sell to them when they're driving down the road not getting their butt cheeks massaged? And so they came to us and they were like, we want to sell people butt cheek massaging and all kinds of services through a store on the MMI. And at the time, it seemed pretty far-fetched because there was nothing like, and even Apple CarPlay was barely a thing.
Yep.
And so they were like, we would like to consider selling your tuning products through this interface. So if someone's driving down the road and they get out accelerated by a Toyota Camry, they can just log into the MMI interface and say, give me 50 more horsepower, and really show that Toyota Camry who's boss. And so we met with them here in this room. Mm-hmm. And there was kind of a biz dev guy, but they brought a tuning and calibration engineer. The guy, one of the guys who had done and was in charge of all the tuning and calibration for.
Yeah, I can't remember which projects. Like I know he was familiar with a bunch of the Dazzle stuff.
Yeah,
and a couple of others. I can't remember now. Though.
And so we spent quite a bit of time talking to him about how the OEMs calibrate and the kind of processes they go through. And their world is largely dictated by emissions, by legal compliance, limiting liability. And so their
diagnostics is a huge part
OBD.
Of their process.
Well, that's a huge part of the the legal requirements. So everything has to work through the OBD system to be even sellable in the US. So anyways, and I think we learned a lot from talking to them, mm-hmm. and have put a lot of what we learned into our engineering process ever since. But I'll let you chime in. Anything else?
I mean, I think the overall scope of the calibration work, the dyno is kind of just the end result. You can use it for a lot of the refinement, the fine tuning, the stuff where you really need to see a discrete change. I will say that you cannot get a good calibration just on the dyno or just on the street. You need both. You need to be able to sit in an isolated environment, sweep cams around, sweep timing around, sweep all the mechanical controls around that are going to be very nuanced, small changes, but when you stack them together and get it right, can really transform both power delivery and some of the driving characteristics that you just can't do on the street. And then the other 90% I would say is probably done with real world driving, all kinds of different conditions on track, on street, altitude, different temperatures. So it's a mixture of basically everything the car is going to see when you guys get it, and then refined and measured and quantified on dynos as needed. So a little both. I don't know. I can't speak to the actual full OEM procedure, but it's probably not too dissimilar, just on a different scale.
Mm-hmm. Also, a great question. Thank you.
Yep.
There's a note here to say, yes, we are working on rolling anti-lag. So, yes, we mention that every week. Definitely something we've been working on. As we've stated, we've deprioritized it since it's... I mean, I know it has some performance advantage.
Yeah, a lot of the testing and experience we've got is the brake boosting we have already is been as performant. It's just not, different noises, different.
But we get the cool fun factor of rolling it tonight. So we've been working on it, but we've put it as a higher priority item. And flex fuel as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got a lot of testing.
I don't know what a holy update thing is.
I need a little more clarity on that.
Will you share your 4-bar map sensor calibration data? My custom tuner needs it to account for the map sensors.
I would need to know which 4 bars you're talking about.
It sounds like the 3.0T.
3 liter, yeah. I don't see why we wouldn't. I mean, they're the same as other OEM sensors on the market. So,
yeah.
I would be a little concerned your tuner doesn't know how to source that information.
Yeah,
because they're not unique to our sensor.
Why does the tuning not have engine braking? I've been meaning to ask, but can get in touch with you guys, is what he said. It does have engine braking. None of the decel stuff has really changed, especially on a 2018 S4. I literally just drove that file in today. There would be
lots of mountains and lots of engine braking and lots of downshifting. So I'm not sure what you're referring to there. We would need to see a little more specifics and likely data.
Maybe they think that the pops and bangs means there's no engine braking.
Not sure, but no, definitely shouldn't be any different than stock on a diesel.
Yeah. 24 Audi S5 Sportback. Is there a tune that does not increase pops and bangs? Seems nobody offers that option. Love the power, but not the noise.
Yeah, read the comment below it. I just highlighted number 2.
Oh, the next question after this is, can you make it louder?
This is what we run into all the time. This with Crackle overrun. So we offer a number of options.
Yeah.
We have no Crackle by request, or not by request, but we generally will offer a no Crackle file on these as well if you want just nice quiet running modes.
Yeah.
You can go in the MMI of your vehicle, set up an individual mode, and turn off just the engine sound from dynamic to comfort or auto, and set the rest of the systems to dynamic. That way you can have essentially everything you're talking about. It will disable the Crackles like it does stock if you're in comfort already. So you can switch between comfort and dynamic. So you've got a lot of control around it already. So yeah, we struggle with how much to add and where to add it and how many poops and boops and pops and bangs and crackles, and there's very polar opposites of requests.
So just send us an email to tuning at 034 and we'll get back to you.
We'll let you know what your options are.
Someone's asking if we've done anything with an 8.5 8Y S3, and I don't believe we have. Not yet.
No, those are a whole different animal for the ECU decryption stuff. We talked about it a bit last week.
Yeah. I recently flashed a TCU Stage 2 on a 21 S4. Haven't tested it completely yet, but out of the box, it feels like BMW's stock ZF tuning and power delivery is 500 times smoother. All my everyday passengers felt the same.
It's a weirdly phrased sentence. The way I read it at first, it sounds like it's 500 times smoother than it was stock, I think.
I think what he's trying to say is that the BMW stock tuning feels smoother.
Is that what it is? I read it differently. I was reading it.
Maybe they can clarify.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Maybe. What's good?
Yeah, it's a weirdly worded sentence. 2017 A6 3.0T coming up on 60,000 miles and was going to upgrade to the 57 millimeter upper pulley when changing the belt for service. Will I still be okay to run the car with the Stage 1 ECU TCU Tune with the supercharger clutch locked?
Hold on. Oh, it's broken into two questions, I see. Oh gosh, now it's all falling apart. All right. Potential look at the Stage 2 Plus after CREC. The potential is quite good for the Stage 2 Plus on the CREC. Sorry, I'm catching up. Yes, we do have locked clutch files for the Stage 1 as well. So I think we're all covered there. Stage 2 Plus stuff, we'll be dropping a bunch of that info very soon. It's putting down some solid numbers.
Yeah, we are currently betaing that right now.
Yep,
which is a good sign for anyone who's interested in the CREC Stage 2. Okay, so apparently the comment about the Stage 2 TCU tuning and BMW stock ZF tuning was that ours feels as good as the BMW, which is a good thing. So wonderful, thank you. I'm actually impressed that BMW's factory tuning is that good.
It's very good.
So apparently they spent more time. I know Nate, the calibrator, always comment about that factory tuning isn't always very good.
It's interesting when you look at a lot of stuff too. You can see the different teams that it may or even down to individuals sometimes that are working on some of these projects, and there's as many different styles and flavors of an OEM calibration almost as you get from custom tuners across the different markets and whatnot.
You'd think
that's pretty interesting.
The factory would do a better job of standardizing.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned, if you're interested in no crackle tunes, email tuning@034motorsport.com. I believe I said that several times, but just in case it wasn't clear. Also, if you need anything to do with 034 Motorsport tuning, also email tuning@034motorsport.com. And if there's anything else you'd like to know about 034 Motorsport tuning whatsoever that wasn't addressed the first two times by emailing then email tuning@034motorsport.com. And our customer support reps are standing by, waiting to answer all of your questions related to tuning. All right. Why do so many people say 034 and not 034? Man, it's just kind of like, if your name's Jacqueline and people want to call you Jacqueline, it's kind of weird, but as long as they're calling you to dinner, they can say it however they want. So I don't know. We like to pronounce it 034 Motorsport. From the very beginning, I felt like we were an engineering company, and pronouncing the numbers 034 was more of an engineering take and a more professional way of stating our name instead of saying 034. I understand when people talk about phone numbers and they're from San Jose, they say 408. I mean, O and 0 is kind of used interchangeably.
The 505 or the
there's no standard to it. So we just like to say that it's 034, and that's how we talk about it. And I think some people just don't know. That's okay. I think some people like to be contrarian and think it's really funny to say it the way that we don't want to say it. And so they keep saying it over and over again. It's kind of like a 6-year-old boy repeating the same annoying thing just to get attention. That's fine. As long as they continue to buy our products and use our products and allow us to support them, that's okay. I think, some people say when they accelerate, they go from 0 to 60 miles an hour, apparently. And that's okay.
There's no way that's a thing.
As long as they get to 60 miles an hour and
Yep.
less than 4 seconds, it's respectable. Even if they say the 0 as an O. I don't know. At the end of the day, like, your name is your name, and how you say it is how you say it, and then there's how everyone responds to it, and it's it's whatever. Nick, if you have to say it's sarcasm, then you failed. Sorry.
Gotta explain the joke.
But maybe I was so sarcastic in the way I said it that you
flipped them,
which happens all the time. So yeah, say it however you want. Just continue to buy and support our products. We won't give you too hard a time. This is a stupid question. Is it even possible at some point in the future to make the S4 switchable between 2-wheel and 4-wheel drive?
No.
Not as it currently stands.
Not as it currently stands. There's a mechanical differential in the middle that's always going to have an engagement from front to rear. And the torque biasing and whatnot is primarily mechanically based as well. So
now, there are a number of all-wheel drive systems out there, I think by Mitsubishi and probably somebody else, that have electronic coupling of
even
the center diff.
Even all the VAG, the small chassis stuff, is all coupled.
That would allow you to go between front-wheel drive and drive. I think anybody would want to have rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, and that would require an electronic coupling to disconnect the front, the front differential.
Yep.
For the time being, if you really wanted to do it, there are ways to mechanically do it that require replacing the center diff with a welded or a spool. It's just to kind of short circuit it, but anyways, yeah, not easily. But if at some point Audi goes to like a much more electronically controlled all-wheel drive system, then it would be possible.
Yep.
But even now, the Quattro system is, even though it has some electronic augmentation like the vectoring diff, it's all a mechanical differential system, and it works great.
Yes,
it's still one of the best ones in the market. B9 S4, what are your thoughts on plugging the solenoid that controls the water pump and leaving the solenoid plugged into power?
Not sure I'm getting what they're looking for here. So I think it's just jamming the water pump to pump all the time, which I don't think you want to do that. I'm not sure quite what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that would just cause the solenoid to be on all the time. Right. Yeah, maybe you want to elaborate on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, which problem are you solving? Because the actuator and all that is still in there. You're not really fixing a problem. And the regulation of the pump is actually reasonable to have for warm-up and heat cycling. So...
Mm-hmm. I was asking, I'm planning on upgrading to Stage 2 CREC, but wasn't ready to change the clutch delete yet. Will I have any problems? Yes. The clutch delete is required for Stage 2. The factory supercharger clutch would slip at those kind of loads. So we require our clutch delete.
Yep.
Why did you choose J-hook style brakes instead of slotted or drilled or something like that? Love the J-hooks, wondering about performance. Well, we didn't want to do drilled because when you drill a brake rotor, it does weaken the structure. There are some good quote-unquote drilled rotors out there that are actually cast with
cast in the...
Yeah, and that's the right way to do it because it maintains the grain structure and doesn't lead to the kind of cracking problems you see with just straight drilled rotors. This is, for example, factory Porsche rotors that are drilled, quote-unquote drilled, are cast like that. The slots are perfectly fine. I think we just wanted to do something that was visually different, that separated us a little bit. I think it's Alcon kind of popularized that look or geometry, and so we borrowed from that. As far as the J-hook, J-hooks are good performing, and slots, J-hooks, emoji bears, machined into the face of the rotor. It all just allows those gases to escape pad. So I don't know. I'm not here to make some big claims about why our J hooks are so much better than slot or anything else, but you really do want something there. We were Googling the other day on like the myriad of slot kind of brake rotor treatments out there, and there's really nothing you can think of that hasn't already been done. So,
It's reasonable.
but literally like companies' names. I think you can get like your girlfriend's boob size, machined into the face of the rotor. It's all been done out there. So, if you see any double D rotors out there, now you know. Are there any new features coming to the B9 RS5 platform regarding the tunes? I'm on stage 2 plus with E85 and was appealing to have a true flex tune and rolling anti-lag. Anything like that coming to 0.
We already talked about
yeah. I think we just said that, yes, we are working on flex fuel and rolling anti-lag, and that would apply to RS5 as well. I don't know who. I thought we just addressed that. So, Audi Stock TCU Tune is garbage. It takes so much time to think and then suddenly deliver the burst of power, making you think it's very fast. But honestly, it's very jerky in the cabin. And this person recommends everyone go for the Stage 2 TCU Tune. So there you go. You heard it from him, and he's right. Would you recommend a subframe dead set kit for a Mark 8 with adjustable camber plates? I think the Mark 8 has the same subframe alignment issues as the Mark 7. So yes, we do recommend that. The problem is from the factory, the subframe is slotted, which allows the subframe to move left or right to equalize the camber, on the front suspension. It's really the only way you can adjust camber from the factory. But what happens is the factory subframe bolts will stretch. They won't apply an even torque holding load. And so the subframe starts moving. So that's when you start hearing the creaking, the popping, especially at low speeds when you're going up a driveway or something. You hear that stuff. So we came up years ago with a set of bushings that go in to the subframe and new bolts to clamp everything down that prevents the subframe from moving. But now you can't adjust your camber. So with the camber plates, you can now adjust, you can get the camber you want. And you want to keep that subframe locked in as much as possible. And it's a relatively cheap product, relatively easy to do. Stage 1 ECU, Stage 2 TCU trans mount and inserts, super duper inlet with S34 on B9 S5 coupe with track exhaust. How long should I let the car rest before drag run stock intercooler?
Until it's cooled. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's going to entirely, we're going to say this a lot, but it's going to entirely depend on the conditions and, kind of how everything's performing. Lots of people will bring like big carpet dryer fans and things to just move a lot of air across the intercooler and motor engine bay area.
If you can just drive around for a minute, though, it's going to cool.
It'll help a ton. It's really going to depend on, what your staging times are, like how long you're going to be sitting there idling or crawling the thing. General public drag days are tough spots to get like nice, cool, repetitive, optimal runs in.
What's with all the trolling comments?
I don't know. It's Instagram at full tilt here.
It's real classy people out there.
Yep.
What happened to the 3.2 liter VR6 A3 turbo kit? It lived its life out. All these products kind of have a life cycle, and we sold a bunch of them. It was a real popular thing to do when the VR6 was really, a popular motor in the market, like especially Mark V R32 era. But then we moved our focus to B8, and I think the market kind of moved on, and the sales on the kit really slowed down, and you have to decide how much you want to continue to invest in a product to keep it on the shelf and keep it in stock. So we discontinued it, and I'm not sure who has a VR6 turbo kit on the market anymore. They pretty much all went away. Are you guys still planning on doing a V2 strut brace for the B8.5 SQ5 that clears the MRA 1900? Definitely miss having that brace in my engine bay. And we've definitely talked about it. I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that one's at.
It would be a pretty low volume part.
Yeah, and it turns into a lot of space that got consumed by the back of the charger there.
Mm-hmm. We'll check in on that. What is the best B9 brake rotor pad setup for street performance? As of current, I would say our rotors and pads are a great street setup, and they're not the pads we have at current are not track pads. Although I think they could be used for light track use if you were kind of a beginner on track or weren't driving the car very hard. But they're very good on the street. I think you'd have a hard time overheating them on the street unless you were maybe just coming straight down a mountain on the brakes the whole time. So yeah, check out our stuff. Very good. There's some questions about the TCU mech unit offerings that are on the market by a couple other tuners, which allows you to swap the unflashable mech unit with an older flashable unit. That is something we're working on. I don't know when we'll have something ready, but we've been testing some options, and we'll keep you guys posted if we end up releasing something. But we are working on it. We'll just have to see. It's getting prioritized with everything else we're doing. Can't believe that the Q7 CREC isn't 2+ yet, unless it's still under testing. I'll wait. Any comment, Nate?
Is definitely under testing.
Yes.
Yes. No, we are very far along with that.
And it's glorious.
Yep.
What are the differences between street density motor mounts versus the Motorsport Street Version Mounts as far as NVH and performance is concerned, specifically for a B9 3.0T? It's substantial. Don't let the street names fool you. The street density version is going to be very livable, minimal NVH. You might feel a little bit at idle, or if you're in drive with your foot on the brake, when everything kind of loads up, you might feel a little bit of vibration. Nothing when you're driving. The street versions and the Motorsport, so the Motorsport Street Sport. So we have Street Density and Street Sport. Street Sport is going to be much stiffer. It's just a much stiffer mount design as a whole. And you're going to feel some amount of NVH pretty much all the time. I think a lot of people feel like it's okay if your goal is to have a precise high performance driving machine, then the amount of NVH is totally livable. But your passengers may comment on it, they may notice it. The track density is going to be much more so. And again, we have plenty of people plenty of customers that drive around on our track sport mounts on the street as well. But that's getting quite stiff. The saving grace here is that the B9 V6 is a very smooth, balanced motor without a lot of internal harmonics. And so there's just not a lot of vibration to transmit, say, compared to like a Daza or the 4-cylinder. Any of the 4-cylinders are just very thrashy in relation to the V6 and V8 motors.
Yep.
What's your favorite thing to listen to while driving? Podcasts, Sirius XM, Yacht Rock.
Yacht Rock.
I tend to either listen to NPR, which I enjoy especially when they're covering the news. I feel like it's a good source of news, relatively unbiased. Or I'll just be listening to Tidal, to music.
Real music.
Just music, yeah.
I don't even know what is yacht rock. What would you consider yacht rock?
I think it's like a version of elevator music, but it's like what you'd hear if you were on like a boat, like a yacht. But, yeah, look it up. It's a thing. I don't know exactly.
Hold on. Let me see here. Soft rock.
Soft rock, right.
In 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So it's like elevator music for boats. So like Air Supply, Richard Marx. Wherever you go.
Okay, I got you now.
Whatever you do. Yeah, it's good music. I'm just not much into podcasts. I have listened to them. I understand. I think the millennial generation eats up podcasts like at a much higher rate than Gen X does. But I tend to just have a hard time. Like I just kind of tune it out and stuff. But NPR has a lot of that kind of stuff. Like
so you're saying listen to nothing about the TT810 spool radio off.
Well, if you have a good motor sound, that's also great. Anyways, that's just me being vulnerable. Please don't flame me.
Too late, I'm sure.
But if you do flame me, be sure to post all your bullshitty preferences online as well. So
mine's not far off either. It's NPR in the mornings for sure, and then it's just some mix of usually some sort of alternative that I grew up on the way home.
I have listened to a few books on tape.
Yeah, well, if I'm certainly some books on tape. Depending on if I've got like long drives, that's definitely a thing. If the kids are in the car, it's lots of books on tape. That gets them through drives like nothing else for us.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard this song? That's My Baby Dog.
Can't say as I have.
Okay, I'm actually surprised because it's taken the childosphere by storm.
It's like this is the new Baby Shark.
It's the new Baby Shark, and it's just this. I'm sure there's some other dads listening who've been subjected to this horror.
That's my baby dog.
Yeah, that's just my baby dog.
Dog.
It's like a little kid singing it. It's awful.
Goodness.
It's as bad as Baby Shark. Yeah. Okay, we just have a couple questions left, so just FYI, we've done a very good job at getting through all the questions, unless they were the questions I can see.
Yes,
pretty douchey stuff that was being posted. But B8.5 S5 stock cats, resonated downpipes, and AWE touring exhaust. What's the best way to get crackles while prolonging the longevity of stock cats?
That's kind of why we don't offer it in that platform. Those stock cats are not the most reliable long term. So that's not something.
They're less reliable than other Audi factory cats.
Yeah, they perform really well. I mean, they're great catalysts, and they're great
when they do perform well.
Performant.
They make
components. Power. They make power. They're not really a restriction in that environment, but they do. The matrices do tend to fail after X number of years.
Got a question. I know it's normal for the check engine light to pop up once on stage 2, but is there a way to stop it from popping up? Depends. If you're running our stage 2 file for a catless vehicle for off-road use and racing, you should not have any codes. So you're going to want to scan and see what the code is and go from there.
Yep.
You can always email us at tuning@034motorsport.com to get support on that.
Yep. But yeah, no, if you don't have a tune for it and you're going with stage 2 hardware stuff, yes, you'll certainly get codes and lights.
Can you test if your GTI upgrades and stage 2 requirements will work on the 2.0T Atlas Ea888.3? I can't find any data on compatibility for Atlas when it has the same engine as the GTI.
Yeah, just sharing some engine components, unfortunately, isn't the whole story. They have far different calibrations, different transmissions, different supporting stuff, different intakes, different all kinds of different stuff going on in there.
And actually, what engine has nothing to do with it. It has to do with what operating system the ECU is running. What the ECU specific ECU software specifications are. Because you could have a Bosch or a Siemens ECU running the same engine. So that's going to be related more to that. So Dave Bird says, thanks. I can't get Richard Marx out of my head now. You're welcome, Dave. Why don't you go sing it to Jennifer and see what happens? Yeah. I think you'll be thankful.
Thank Javad later. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just text me. I'm here. All right. Thanks, everyone. This was a very successful, got through all the questions episode. So thanks again for joining us. We always appreciate it. Appreciate your time and you being here and asking some great questions. Gets us thinking too. So we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.